Hello, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and today we have as our guest one of my most favorite people in the whole wide world, Jamia Wilson. Thank you for coming back to Black America, Jamia.
Thank you so much for having me, Carol. One of my favorite people and trailblazing mentors. Always a pleasure.
Well, listen, Jamia is riding some rocket ship in our universe here. She is currently the editor and publisher at the Feminist Press at CUNY, doing a fabulous job there. But she has been kidnapped, so to speak, to Random House, where she will be vice president and executive editor, which is a really powerful job in publishing. Jamia, tell us exactly what that means, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am still thinking a lot about what it means and feeling really honored to be following in the footsteps of Black editors who paved the way for me, including one of my sheroes, Toni Morrison, who was an editor at Random House and also a writer for Knopf, which is also a part of Penguin Random House. And it was a big part of what excited me about thinking about what it would mean for me to build on the foundation that Florence Howe, the founder of the Feminist Press, built in wanting to springboard more diverse voices into publishing at all levels, from authors to publishing professionals, and thinking about what it would mean to go to Random House and be able to expand the reach of the impact of marginalized voices, as well as to join people like Tracy Sherrod, who is at SNS doing amazing work, who also got her start at Feminist Press. So I see myself as a part of a lineage of feminist editors, writers, storytellers, and also Black feminist editors, writers, and storytellers, and feel that my job, and I hope that everyone will hold me accountable to that, will be to ensure that where I go, others will come with me. And because people like you did that for me, that's something that I'm also hoping to do in my next chapter.
It's so funny that you say that you're not going to be the last. Someone else said that recently. Let's take a listen.
But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities. And to the children of our country, regardless of your gender, our country has sent you a clear message. Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see yourselves in a way that others may not, simply because they've never seen it before. But know that we will applaud you every step of the way.
What an exciting night that was. Your reaction. We know that 90% of Black women in this country voted for the Biden-Harris ticket. And Black women were thanked expressly for the success of this election. Your thoughts as that was happening, were you sure that it would happen, and the reaction afterwards?
I am in awe of us all the time, because we can always be counted on as being the backbone of our democracy, because our communities and ourselves are always on the front line of being impacted by unjust policies and policymakers. So I always know that I can count on us. But what I also know is that because it is known and it is documented that Black women are always, majority of us are always upholding the backbone of our democracy, that voter suppression efforts and silencing are also something that we have to always be ready to confront. So for me, going into this, I knew that we would show up for democracy. We would show up for ourselves, for our communities, and for the values we hold dear. And I also knew we would show up for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, and how Kamala Harris is making history is also making history for us. And I say that as an HBCU alum, as well as an AKA who is also part of her sorority.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah. So all of us AKAs are celebrating her victory. And I noticed that as she was running, though, this collective of Black women's organizations had to issue we have your back, Kamala, because of the insults. The president called her a monster, and there were all kinds of misogynist, racist attacks against her. And this collective group of Black women, I told them that they had the best opening line I had ever heard, which was this letter that they issued. We are 5 million Black women strong, and we say, you know, we give our support to you. I mean, it's such a power that we have, that we demonstrated that we could put to use this time as we have previously. But what I'm wondering about now is, where is the payback? I know that Kamala as vice president is the payback, but, you know, I'm here to say that, and I know you agree with this, is that we are not okay. You know, Black women in this country are simply not okay, and we need this administration and the rest of this country to recognize that and to do something about it.
I 100% agree with you. Part of what was motivating me while going to the polls this year was thinking about the spectrum of life and the spectrum of the Black women's lives that have been in my life as well as my own, and to think about how I have wept about something as everyday and as marvelous as planning one's family, and thinking about the odds of that ending up in tragedy for me because of our maternal health crisis, and how I've seen that show up for other Black women in my family, as well as how I've seen the tragedy in the healthcare system around how we're treated when we express pain, statistically documented, how we are gaslighted when we express pain and our needs, and pathologized in our motherhood, in our families, and how we show up at work, how we communicate. So all of that was heavily in me when casting this vote and thinking about how our lives really depended on this outcome and continue to depend on it. And I think that was a big motivator for so many of us, and a motivator for why there have been so many Black women coming together to back Senator Harris, now Madam Vice President-elect, and in an understanding that not only did she need us to back her every step of the way as we came to this moment, because we know the realities of what happens when one of us steps into our power, but also she will need us in the months, weeks, years ahead. And that's something that I think about every day. How can we be of service to that? Because as she spoke about, it's not just about her, it's about us. And that's really what I'm thinking about. And it's about those of us who don't have the privileges that someone like Senator Harris and Vice President Harris has, or myself. And so it was a very exciting moment for me, and also a really solemn one. That it took this long. Is something that I will never quite get over, and yet I still celebrate.
Right. And the publishing world that you are now ascending, we have no doubt that, you know, you're climbing up this ladder in a very difficult universe. Tell me, is it how close to the truth is it that Black women and girls are the largest reading group in the country? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh, I love this. So several years ago, there was a study, and I believe it was Pew who did this research, that said that the person who is most likely to read a book on any platform, ebook or in hardcover, would be a Black woman, college-educated reader. And that feels true to me, knowing what it's like for the women in my community, but I also know it to be true for other people, including my grandmother, who was a domestic worker, never went to college, who I caught one time on her farm. She usually works all the time. She's 98 now, reading Dreams of My Father on the porch. That I think it's a part of our truth for many of us, and there's a history of that. I remember growing up and having my mom tell me that reading was her escape from Jim Crow when she was growing up in South Carolina, that she would go to these libraries at school and then see in the book, she showed me a book that she'd never turned back in, where it would say the race of the person who checked out the book in the city library. And I won't even tell you what the word was that they used to describe Black people in it. But when she showed me that, it really showed me too that these same books that were still a reminder, right, the way that they would even issue it out to you, that you're living under this system that counts you out, were the escape, they were the conduit, they were the inspiration engines that got her to see, oh, I can learn, and that knowledge is something that can never be taken away from me. And when you look at the statistics around Black women's quest for knowledge in this country and education, it resonates deeply. And that's one of the reasons that I continue to want to be of service in publishing, because I am just such a passionate reader for the same reason. Reading makes me feel powerful.
Right. Well, we had such a tumultuous time rioting, not by Black people per se, but protests. We need to make sure that we separate out the difficulties that took place, because, you know, there are some who would like to blame Black people for that, and that's not so. But protests, terrible, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and after that, this rush of examining every system that we have in the country, including publishing. And that's where there seemed to have been some progress made. Dana Kennedy at Simon & Schuster, our friend Lisa Lucas at Penguin, Random House, you know, Kevin Young, who's, you know, going to become the new head of the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. Fantastic poet and writer, but who was also going to be running that magnificent museum. So talk to us about that. The reaction to the protest, is that the way you see this happening as well, that we've made such progress in publishing?
I think that when you think of the timing of all of these shifts, and, you know, you're continuing to hear announcements about new emergent conversations in publishing and all levels of the arts, new hires, Black folks and other people of color in these very gate-kept industries happening after the uprisings. And I think a big part of that is because the veil was lifted for those who still didn't see it the way those of us who live it and experience it in cellular memory do, that there was no denying, after the world watched a man lynched, that this is the reality that we are in, and that all of the systems, economic, cultural, all of those power imbalances are connected to this. And if you are not taking responsibility for your role in this, then you're part of the problem. And that reckoning opened up conversations that people have been trying to have for a great deal of time, but really made it possible for those conversations to happen a lot more rapidly, and for there to be a call for action and aggressive action. And that's why we're seeing more investment from a funding level. We're seeing changes in industries and appointments. But I'm also hoping that this also means that this will be continued. I think a lot about the conversations after Me Too, and how when Me Too happened, it came from a catalyst of events, a series of events and an uprising. And we still fight to make sure that that conversation continues and is sustained. And I want this conversation to continue and to be sustained when the next uprising about the next very righteous issue also pops up. And so I think that this is a really important beginning that's building off of other beginnings that happened before. And it's up to those of us who care to sustain it and to do whatever we can to continue to grow momentum.
So I do want to have, I have one of your books here. I have several of them here actually, but this is, if you should definitely get Together We Rise. Jamia has done an excellent summation of the women's marches and the Me Too movement. And of course, my kids are big fans of Jamia's. Step Into Your Power.
Thank you.
You know, I get to show off, you know, all of Jamia's books, and Young, Gifted, and Black, and you've got a new version of Young, Gifted, and Black coming out in January.
Yes, I'm so
about Baby.
Oh, thank you so much. I just love your kids, and also that's who I think about when I work on these books. You know, every book that I work on for younger readers is a book that I wish that I had when I was growing up. And that's part of why I'm in publishing, because I want to be a part of creating media where everyone, like the Feminist Press mission statement says, can recognize themselves in a book. I know the thrill of being able to see myself in the story. And that's so important, in all different kinds of stories, not just one note, multiple dimensions. So the Baby book is coming as a result of having a lot of folks say, well, we need a book that will be able to speak to the younger kids who might not be able to read yet, but who can be read to and who can engage. And my wonderful editor, Katie Flint, and I talked about what would need to change for a baby version of the book. And so this book is a book of affirmations. So instead of the big biographies like the book for the younger readers has that they can read, this one has affirmations like, I care for the planet like Wangari Maathai. So we can also be telling the kids affirmations. And then at the end of the book, there's a mirror that says there's a world waiting for me. And they can see themselves in the book. They can see themselves reflected back next to their heroes. So I'm really proud of this one and the board book, little tiny trim size, so that little dreamers can see themselves and start also memorizing those affirmations. When they get to the playground, they get a bit older, they can say, I'm powerful. And I'm powerful like Pele. I'm powerful like Nina Simone. I'm powerful like everyone recognized in the book. So this one for me was my very favorite thing to work on.
That's great. And with the same artist.
Yes, with the same artist, Andrea Pippins, who
Great.
is an amazing African-American Brazilian artist based in Stockholm. And she is wonderful. And we've collaborated on multiple books together and still have yet to meet in real time. But that's the thing I always tell people. I'm like, this is what Black women can do together. When we collaborate, we can make multiple books together without having even physically met. But when we do meet, it will be epic.
Yeah, these are beautiful books, my children and their parents, and I love them. And as Jamia knows, we're raving about them all the time. Such a contribution. Speaking about your writing, I just read an interview you gave about how do you write? How do you spend your day? And what do you share that? Because I know that you're going to be flooded with people who have books for you to publish, right? But what do you say to the writers? What's the key thing that you have to do that you find that makes you able to get through the day and to be so productive? I mean, a slew of books in addition to editing and, being the publisher and now, going to Random House where you'll be responsible for many writers. Tell us your schedule and what's at the center of that success.
Thank you. I feel like anything that I feel is worth investing in life, you need to know it's a part of your purpose. So I always say to folks, if being a writer is a part of why you feel you were put on this earth, whatever your beliefs and it's your purpose, then you need to do something related to that every day. And, there are writers who have rules around it who say, oh, you need to write 500 words a day. You need to write 250. I don't think about it that way. And I'd be hypocritical if I said that was what I did every day. But what I do is make sure that I write every day, just like I get up in the morning and have a glass of water as soon as I get up. I treat it like that. I need oxygen to live. I need water to live. I need writing to live. And somehow by integrating it into my life, just the way you would integrate working out into your life, or, I'm gluten-free. I can't eat gluten, without getting sick. I treat my writing this way when I'm feeling lazy. You actually need to be exercising that muscle, otherwise you'll get sick. And that has really helped me. And that's why I spend a lot of my weekends writing and a lot of early mornings before I start work. I get up earlier than everybody else and I write. And it's been really wonderful. And I think a big part of it for me is also very spiritual. It's a part of my meditation, my prayer to write. And so much so that, when I lost my mother, who was also a writer and was always a champion of my arts and champion of me becoming a writer, said before she passed, you still need to write me letters. You still need to write me letters when I transition. And that has been a part of a really beautiful journey for me. And to say, oh, she's supporting this practice, right? So whatever that is for you, whoever it is that is in the next plane that you still want to be in conversation with, is a tip that I share with people. Write them a letter 3 times a week, then change that to every day. It will be great.
Yeah, that is just wonderful. And will you publish those letters? I'm sure I'm sure that's going to be extremely moving for all of us. Going back to, so we have so many people who want to be writers. There are 2 things that I noted in doing the research for talking with you today. I had not realized that there was a massive one-day strike of people in the publishing industry who said, it's unequal, it's discriminatory, and we're not going back to work until somebody does something.
Yes.
So talk to us about that. And also, what I love was the sharing of the advances that writers got, which showed the discrepancy between what Black writers and white writers were getting. I mean, to the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference. So those two things operating in this system that you're going in to change.
Yes, so the strike, one thing that I'm really proud of is when the uprisings were happening and when we were talking about it at Feminist Press, we talked about it as a team to say, we know that this is about to happen. And we were in conversation with a lot of people who were organizing it too. And I went directly to our board chair, who is also a woman of color in the media, who I said, we really want to participate in this. And we want to figure out a way that we can be a present and vocal part of this, because there's some people who are our colleagues who are in houses who aren't able to say things that we can, and how can we show up in this work in that way? And so we did. And so we were, as a publishing house, a part of the strike, which, you know, was rare, that we said today, the staff are going to be supporting volunteer efforts to support justice and equality in publishing and beyond, and to support Black Lives Matter. And everyone on the team worked to do that. And then the staff came to me to say, if you want to just take a break today, that's something that you can do.
Right.
And I decided that for me, I felt, you know, that my day was going to be devoted to really exploring what the ancestors sent me here to do. And so it was an active day for me, but to be really focused on that. And
Right.
so it was a gift, and I felt like it was a gift in solidarity and community, but also to learn who allies were in the larger publishing world who were saying, this is the first time that I've been able to do a gesture of this kind, and it feels good. And to see organizing efforts come out of that, and to see collaborations that continue. And we joined a book club that was a part of that as well. So it's exciting to see that coming out of the uprisings and coming out of the publishing uprisings, there have been some developments as well. And there have been some answers to that call that need to continue.
Sure, and the sharing of what the advances are. I know we only have a few minutes left, but that was so, you know, Roxane Gay, you know, said what she had gotten for the first, second, third book, and as other writers did, it was really revelatory.
And Kay Jemison, I mean, it was revelatory, and it was also a moment that I really enjoyed, because I really believe in this concept I learned about at TED when I worked there, about radical transparency. And for me, I thought about, what does it mean to politicize radical transparency? It only serves to help the most marginalized among us. And there's, you know, all these kinds of things that you learn about professionalism when you're taught those things as a youngster. Don't ever talk about your salary, all those things. In fact, the opposite of so many of those things have been the things that have been really helpful to me and others in these movements. Just having other people in my community start talking about their salaries as young women in some of my earliest organizations really helped me get a sense of understanding what I should ask for. And I remember the first thing that politicized me in the wage gap was that I had a boyfriend, and when I first got into the workforce, who had a similar job, similar level, very smart person, et cetera, who was making $15,000 more than I was to start at an organization next door to mine. And that just ate away at me.
Right.
And I think about that a lot in this conversation too, around how we need to have more of these transparent conversations as a point of accountability, but also just a point of empowerment around what are the standards that we're upholding as a community.
Well, Jamia Wilson, we're expecting, and we know that we will get terrific things from you, making lives better for all writers and for Black writers. And I don't know, the way you're writing, you may be the next Toni Morrison, you know, that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you are so kind. I think, you know, for me, the one sadness that I have in my life is that I have never gotten to thank her for inspiring me and so many writers. And if I could do, you know, one nano sliver of what she did on this earth, I would die happy. But I also think that what has really moved me as someone who also studied at Howard, and knowing that that's what Toni Morrison did, was that Toni Morrison really kind of became known as a writer after being in her mid-30s. And that is true to me too. And I think that I want to have more conversations around that as well, that, you know, that there's something about this conversation in our society where women are rendered invisible once we hit a certain age. And I just turned 40 and I feel like I'm just getting started. I am so excited to be 40 years old and have the wisdom that comes with that, and just can't wait for 50 and 60 and beyond, because I see in the women who have supported me and taught me so much that with each decade comes a lot of wisdom and a lot of humility and vision. So I'm just, thank you for that. And, you know, I'm going to continue to learn, and I'm going back to reread all of her books right now.
Great. And we're going to reread all of yours. We're starting today. Jamia Wilson, congratulations. Thank you so much for being with us today. Come back next year again so we can get an update on your work, and much, much success. And so thanks to Jamia for being here, and thanks for you all out there for watching as well. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and we'll see you the next time.